Cameron over the top, put it straight down the throat of Proust, who can kick him like that with his eyes closed. Proust to Watson. He already has one under the belt. What's he got for us, Wizard? He's got that! Oh. Moore, inside 50. Spots Jack, coming hard off the wing. Good hard work from Noble, but still they come. One after another. McDonald this time with the soccer. Meek rolls reversed. Here's Jack. Ginnivan's got through. Ginnivan has kicked the goal. Oh, Jack. Even he wouldn't have dreamed of this.
The Hawks produced a wet weather masterpiece, pulverising the Pies by 66 points. There were stars all over the park in what was a comprehensive win, a win that has kept Hawthorn in the hunt for finals. There's so much to talk about, so let's get down to business. Thanks for hitting play on another episode of the Hawk Talk podcast. I'm Nick. Hello to my co-host Tiz, and mate, that really did feel like a famous Hawthorn victory.
That was a turning of the tide, Nick. I know you want to keep the lid on, but there's a lot of pressure on that lid now.
This question from Hammer, where is the lid? Well, where indeed? Because it has to be off at this point, right? And that's not to say necessarily that we're certainties to make finals or anything like that. At least that's not my perspective. I just think it's really high time to believe in this Hawthorn outfit. I mean, the trajectory of this group, it's looking incredible at the moment.
The momentum is tangible. Look, Jack was terrific on Saturday. He's totally bent the minds of the Collingwood faithful.
He's caused an online social media melting of an entire fan base. Between him and Watson, they've just destroyed their psyche.
What did you say earlier in the injury report? We're going to read what?
Collingwood, spirit broken.
And it's true. They did. They gave up. And he acknowledged that in the presser, really.
Oh, mate, the moment they gave up, it was epitomised in this one moment, their total surrender, and that they just did not want to be out there. I mean, you could argue there were various points, but one that stuck out to me, that torp from the square, just that went straight to Amon. Amon dishes it off to Impey, and it sails straight back over their heads. That was pathetic.
What are we thinking? Because 2008 was obviously a heroic victory, well ahead of what we thought it would be. That's what people are talking about, who declared the lid is off. That's what they're talking about. And they're also referencing the doggies, like Yorick is here.
Yeah, Yorick says, okay, we're still going with the Port loss being the catalyst here. Feeling vibes of 2007. Is the lid off enough to think about doggies vibes in 2016? I mean, the lid is off, right? My mate spotted it in southern Queensland late on Saturday. It had flown so high. Lid off.
It's just such an even league at the moment that... you make finals, you can get a long way. Unless you're Essendon, who look like they're just gonna miss again. But anyway, let's talk about how Jack Ginnivan absolutely dismantled Collingwood and received no respect for the entire game from his opposition.
Well, yeah, 31 touches for Jack, 5 marks, 5 tackles, 4 clearances, 417 metres gained, 11 score involvements in all, which included his 2 goals won. No, they didn't afford him any respect. And they paid the price. I don't think that Collingwood paid the team a great deal of respect. And they certainly didn't pay the conditions any respect. They looked ill-equipped. They looked out of their depth.
They didn't play the conditions well, but they also didn't beeline the football that often.
No.
I couldn't believe that Maynard's hit didn't get anything either. Did you see immediately after he hits Ginnivan, Nick Watson raises the arm into his face back?
Yeah.
He had a fantastic game too, Nick Watson. He looked totally gassed at the end. And then Sammy Mitchell's like, chuck him in the middle for the last centre bounces. That'll serve him nicely.
Well, the GPS data reflected that this was his hardest work rate of any game this season, and that was the case in the third quarter. So to stick him in the middle at the end, which, by the way, apparently wasn't a Mitchell masterstroke. That was Dylan Moore.
Oh, did he set it off? That's lovely. I noticed at, 10 minutes to go in the last quarter, our half-forward line was Ward and Watson, and I just can't remember the third. But it was a very, very small, fast half-forward line. They were just so incredibly impressive, and their confidence was high, and they looked like they were just going to keep kicking goals. They were hungry all day.
Well, it's the high half forwards that are getting it done for us week in, week out, and Jack Ginnivan is one of those. I want to know I know what you made of his game. Obviously, he was BOG, and we loved it. He was sensational. But what did you make of the much publicised antics?
The way that he gives energy to his teammates. That's how he does it, isn't it?
Well, that's the word I want to focus on. It's energy, right? He's redistributing energy that he saps from the Collingwood army in that moment. That's what that's about. He knows how to supply himself with energy and momentum, and they played right into it. They fed him everything that he needed in that game.
Nick Watson and Jack Ginnivan, you can't combat it.
Well, I think between them and just the general gameplay from Hawthorn at the moment, there is a lot of love for this club. But I'll tell you right now, it's not going to last. These two, in particular, are going to piss a lot of people off, and it's going to be glorious.
Oh, I see. So you're worried about how we're going to appear in a couple of years when we're actually going positive on the table and we're looking at going deep into finals, and Jack and Watson are just absolutely hamming it up on the celebrations. Even McDonald, who had a fantastic game. Look, it was a very even contribution from much of the side, but look, Bruce kicked 4, mate.
Before we get to those stats, I mean, you highlight the word worry. Mate, why would I be worried? That is precisely the wrong term. If we are engendering or provoking that kind of reaction from opposition supporters, from the league, we are doing something tremendously right, my friend. I mean, if that is the case, we need to become hated again. If we become as hated as we were, I dare say by that stage we've once again fulfilled our destiny of being atop the league.
I don't need to be hated. I need to be envied, I think, is the...
Well, they're neighbours, aren't they?
Look, now tell me if I'm going a bridge too far. But that goal from Chol, had you seen anything like that in your Hawthorn viewing history?
Has anyone done that to Nick Dacos before?
I didn't even realise it was him. He was so anonymous in that play, but you correctly pointed that out on Twitter earlier. But to go onto the left and do what he did and accelerate away from his opponent, well, I haven't seen that for a while, and I very much enjoyed that. I think that got a standing ovation from me.
Come on, drop a name. When was the last time you saw this from a Hawthorn player? Go on. I dare you to go there.
I did it in the crowd. I lucked out, to be honest. Every now and again, you find a Hawthorn supporter that is either louder or just as loud as you are, and you can sort of bask in each other's glow as you absolutely destroy an opposition. And this guy was called Finn, and I met him early in the game, and we provided a great atmosphere in the MCC. We cleared 2 rows in front of us. 20-minute mark of the second quarter. They'd all decided to go to the bar. And I mentioned to Finn, that did look a little Buddy-esque, and he told me to pretty much settle down. But then he came back later and did show me that his drink had no lid. So, all the lids are off. I think I did get carried away, but that was the day, wasn't it? Like, everything we were so much better across the park. Look at all the players if you look in the Herald Sun, you'll see we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players get more disposals than they ordinarily would, and that's by a 30% margin. We just had the ball and we controlled it and we used our pace. I haven't seen a Hawthorn side look this quick across the ground. They saw that Collingwood have a game plan for playing quickly, and they matched it and bettered it. Brilliant.
Well, I think it's worth, before we go into individual performances here, we look at some of the team stats. 434 disposals compared to the Pies' 288. That is an absolute smashing. I mean, our 2024 average, to put this in some kind of context, is 352. So we went, what's that, about plus 80. That is great in the wet. You're not meant to be able to do that. But that is work rate. That is commitment to simply working harder than your opposition. And it's about making space as well, because we killed them in uncontested possessions in particular.
They're the ones that count in the wet. absolutely the ones that count.
And it's how we used it as well, the disposal efficiency of 72.4%, while the Pies didn't even manage 60%.
That's glorious.
And funnily enough, I mean, that's 72.4. That's kind of around where we've been sitting for the season. That kind of approximates our season average. So that's pretty good to see. I mean, that the wet conditions didn't really deter us from playing the game the way that we want to, really, or the way that we can.
Inside 50s, 69 to 37. We're getting a shot 50% of the time.
That first quarter was awesome because McDonald kicks his goal in that first term. At that point, we've had 6 scores from 8 inside 50s, which is crazy. It means it's going in there and we're having a red-hot crack at goal at that point. So
Jack Ginnivan has 21 touches in that first half, 11 in the first quarter, 10 in the second quarter. Sicily had 14 touches in that second quarter with only 1 shoulder in wet conditions. He's an incredible player.
I want to talk about Nick Watson, who has been the recipient of this round's Rising Star. 12 touches at 92% disposal efficiency, 6 score involvements, and 3 goals straight. That is 3 goals straight in the wet.
It wouldn't rain for a long time. And I was thinking we've picked this side for the rain. The rain finally came. Collingwood looked like they couldn't be bothered playing wet weather footy. And that's when we took them to task, just started scoring as we liked. And Nick Watson, with that goal where he shifts inside and then puts it through on the run, that was deafening. Have you heard anything like that for a while?
The skill and the poise in those circumstances, it's just not meant to be that easy. But he made it look easy.
He did. He made it look... And he's going very quickly too.
Oh, he builds up a head of steam. For sure. I mean, he just zips along. And that, apart from the finish itself, what we really need to highlight about that play is the work rate. That's footy IQ. And then once he saw the opportunity, on his bike he went. And it was Quaynor that got sucked into the contest and let Watson just blitz up the wing. And that's what made that happen. It was working hard and reading the play.
He's not slow, Isaac Quaynor, either.
No.
So you've really got to work to show him up. Apart from Dylan Moore, who had 10 scoring involvements, and Jack Ginnivan, who had 11, we got 8 from Connor Nash and 8 from Connor McDonald.
And 8 from Lloyd Meek as well.
Connor Nash backed up his form from last week, and then Connor McDonald, he wasn't going to miss against Collingwood again, was he?
That's what it was about, you reckon?
He loved it. As soon as he put that one through, he was wrapped. I just want to point out that there is a bloke with 10 scoring involvements, Josh Ward. What did you think of him on the day?
I think he worked his arse off. I think he worked so hard. 18 touches, 5 inside 50s, 4 marks, 3 clearances, and as you say, 10 score involvements. I mean, that's his best performance for the year, right? Like, he really busted a gut, and he should hold his spot on the side, to be honest.
This time, he worked within the structure of the team really well too, you know?
Can I just say on Connor McDonald, if you go back through the replay, you will spot that, you know, it's not just a 1-goal celebration.
He's got a different one each time.
No, he'll go multiple.
Oh, will he?
So he'll do one, and then when the pack disperses, someone else will jog over, you know, a straggler, and celebrate with him, and he'll give them a different celebration. So they're just mad for it.
Did you see after, I think it's Guinea's first goal, when Giath is pretending to take images of Guinea posing and strutting and...
Yeah, and for our social media, I did a bit of a mashup with Austin Powers, but yes, I'm familiar.
One wag replies to Hawthorn FC on Twitter, he's like, can we have Giath shots?
And I mean, the camera he was using, you get those developed... Like, how long is this celebration going at that point?
Well, you do get the full 30 seconds, don't you? I mean, I reckon the AFL come in because they can't have all the cameras on the celebrations for all that time because they've got to run the ads, mate. So there's going to have to be some kind
I mean, that celebration from Guinea in particular, that I was on level 2 and that was like the pocket that he was walking to. And it just seemed to never end. Like, it was just this huge love-in between the players, between Guinea and the crowd, and just so many times, you know, he'd be walking back to his position at the punt road end, and everyone would just be going mental for him. And that is the flip side of, yeah, obviously Collingwood were up in arms about their treatment, the good night celebration and all that stuff. Just what happened at the other end was the polar opposite. You just had a fan base that was totally adoring and enraptured with this character.
He kissed the jumper, mate, and I think that said it all.
This is his boyhood dream. You got to remember that. This is the team that he barracked for, and he has the opportunity of a lifetime.
Someone else who lived out their boyhood dream was Jack Scrimshaw with his 100th game, 20 touches at 95% disposal efficiency. Bloody good effort from him.
And the last kick of the game, and when he did have ball in hand, he got a rapturous ovation, which is nice to see.
I should have led with this earlier, but obviously they mightn't have enough pens at Hawthorn FC. I don't know what's going on, but Connor Nash is still unsigned, just waiting for the contract.
29 touches, and less said about his disposal efficiency, the better. But, I mean, look at the conditions. You can't expect too much. 29 touches, 6 hit-outs, 8 tackles, 8 clearances, 8 inside 50s, and, what do you know, 8 score involvements. He really hit upon a theme there in terms of the 8s.
But he took over ruck duties as well. He did everything. Amazing game from Connor. Massimo D'Ambrosio, we were concerned that he mightn't be all that effective, but...
Yeah, I thought he wouldn't get up for the game with an ankle complaint, but, I mean, you want to talk about, earlier in the show, we're talking about no respect paid. Massimo D'Ambrosio, 23 uncontested possessions out of his 26 total. That is absurd.
And then when he went head-to-head with Steel Sidebottom, with the little shimmy and shake, and then put it straight through, delicious.
That was a moment I felt where time slowed down. That ball was coming in, and I thought to myself, watch it bounce over Sidebottom's head. Just wait for it. And it did, and it was glorious.
A number of times on the weekend, especially in wet weather football, you do often find yourself yelling bounce to see if it can go your way. This is how I cleared the rows. Anyway.
396 metres gained for Massimo, an equal team high 6 marks. That's equal with Sicily, I think. 6 score involvements and 2 goals.
Now, Lloyd Meek's an interesting one because you shouldn't be that effective as a ruckman in conditions like that. But 19 pressure acts, 5 clearances, 4 inside 50s, 8 scoring involvements, 2 direct goal assists, 13 touches and 36 headouts. It's a very good return, although Darcy Cameron had a good game himself.
How do you like Meekie feeding Bruce? Shades of the 2013 grand final.
I tell you what, there are a couple of times his ruck work inside 50 led directly to goals. You can't ask more than that. That's just great. It's poor study from Collingwood too, but you got to do it. Like, you got to be able to finish it.
Well, make no mistake, Meek is a huge part of this revival overall. He's got a huge say in it. And he was fantastic again, I felt. And that goal in particular, the one with Bruce, if you go back through the vision and look at Maynard, who was just pathetic most of the day, in character and execution, he's just not even looking. And Bruce has it scouted. Bruce is looking at Meek and waiting for it, and Maynard's not even goal side. It's incredible.
Bruce with 4 goals in the wet. It's a tried and true performance of an out-and-out veteran who got confidence early and just put him to the sword. Wonderful. 2
of them running into open goal out the back.
Yeah.
Can't kick many easier than that.
But he kept his feet. Always keeps his feet, old Brucey.
And a question from Adam, or an opinion rather. Connor McDonald will be in the All-Australian team in the next couple of years, regularly collecting 20-plus disposals and 2-plus goals already. Also, Impey had one of his best games for the club. Didn't lose a one-on-one, career-best form.
I'm so shocked at how well Impey's going. When you tally up some of the injuries he's had in recent years, he is looking phenomenal. Timing is perfect. He's working his way into games if it's not coming easily. He's working off opponents. He's beating his opponents. It's really some masterclass stuff from Jars.
Did you have any unsung heroes from this game? Because I thought Impey would have qualified as one of those. I think Frost had a decent enough game.
Warple, I thought, was excellent, although his stats don't really reflect that. I thought he tried all day and was very good for us.
What about Will Day? The curious case of Will Day this game. Just 74 metres gained, and yet he has 26 touches. Look, in any case, 80.8% disposal efficiency, the way he was using the footy was mostly pretty good. This could just be outlet handballs or not necessarily driving us forward, but, chipping it around, giving us relief by a chip backwards or an outlet backwards, it's a strange one.
when Finn McGuinness came on, he really wanted to stay in this side. He was running everywhere, like a chook with its head off. He wanted goals. He wanted everything. It's great to see.
Well, he might have wanted goals, but he gave 3 away. 37% game time for 3 goal assists. That's pretty good. And I've got to say, I was surprised, not that he was in the side, but that he was a sub. I just didn't really see the rationale behind that. I thought that was a curious move, but all's well that ends well. I mean, it didn't affect the outcome of the game really whatsoever. And I mean, how gutting for Collingwood and their fans to see, oh yeah, here we go, Finn v Nick, round 3. It's round 3, isn't it, I think? And then it just never eventuated, and guess what? Didn't matter. We had a question from Enns. How much have you enjoyed listening to the likes of King, Barrett, etc., reluctantly having to acknowledge how well Hawthorn is playing?
Have they been saying nice things, Nick? Or have they just been acknowledging the facts?
Yeah, I'd say they put a little more into it. They give it a little more oomph than just the facts. But it's hard because I know what they've said. You know, I don't know if the club is keeping receipts. I know Dylan Moore does, by the way, from previous interviews. He definitely keeps receipts in a little black book.
Does he really? Wow.
He does. I'm not sure he looks at it too much anymore, but he's on record as saying this for motivation.
It drives him, does it?
Yeah, he finds it works best for him when he's got something to prove, when he's fighting from the bottom up. That's just how, you know, everyone's got their own mentality as players, and that's his.
Well, we might have to bring back your segment that you killed long ago.
The rant.
And when we need a big game from Dylan, let rip on him.
I need more, Dylan.
We're happy to provide motivation. That's what we're saying.
But the point is that, you know, I'm terminally online.
Terminally.
Even stuff that I don't really care to listen to, I end up absorbing. And a lot of that is nonsense from King and Barrett. And look, I know what they've said in the past. And they can be as rosy about Hawthorn as they like now. But I know what they said. So it does give me a bit of joy that they're going to have to change their tune.
So I've clapped all the players off. And it's in that moment between watching the song come through on the telly in the MCG and getting all that. And I'm talking to a bloke who's telling me he picked this game. Hasn't come down since COVID, and he's down from Brisbane to watch Hawthorn at the MCG. Picked the eyes out of it, to be honest. It's like exactly the game you want to come to. And he's like, how Mitchell has got that ethos into this team is just incredible. Because it's not just the tactics and the set plays that he's got working. It's the fact that they're all building this together and they're all really happy and tangibly happy. Like you watch all the interviews, you absorb all that. There's a common theme coming through.
Which is obviously very lovely. Like that fills my Hawthorn heart with joy. But then also strategically, in terms of recruiting, I mean, wow. What a message. What a sales pitch. You barely even have to... The media now makes it for you. So good. I mean, the club has built that spectacularly well.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a battle to bring anyone to Hawthorn.
I also want to highlight that I met up with long-time listener, Stewie Bro. Do you recognise the name?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, over from Interstate, and lovely meeting listeners as always. And again, if you want to pick a game to go to, this was the one. This is the game that we're going to be talking about for years, I think. It was a sensational occasion. I've got a couple of stories about heading home from the game, actually. My dad caught the tram away from the game, and it happened to be a tram where the conductor was very pro-Hawthorn.
Ooh.
And got on the announcements and just kept on saying, this is a Hawthorn tram, this is not for Collingwood supporters, go Hawks, and all of this stuff. All the way, basically the entire trip. To the point where my dad got off the tram. I thought that was sensational. And meanwhile, me catching the train away from the game, the song broke out on the train, supporters just having the time of their lives, mate. It was a very, very good day at the football.
The football itself was some of the best I've seen from Hawthorn in a long time. Like, I would have seen 3 or 4 plays on Saturday that have been better than anything I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years.
There was an element of, I mean, this might be laying it on too thick, but this is sort of how I felt in the moment. A weird sense of invulnerability. like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what Collingwood was throwing at us. None of their tackles were sticking. All of our handballs were landing when they shouldn't have in the wet. And it just, everything we were trying seemed to look really good. And Collingwood just had no answer for it.
And when we decided to open up the space and use it to our advantage, really, really enjoyable stuff. And we're becoming one of those sides, you can be a problem for other sides. You can be a thorn and you're hard to play against and all this kind of stuff. You're very defensive, very dour. They're unsure of how they're going to score. But we're going to fashion a style where you're going to be worried that you're not going to be able to stop our momentum.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that's far harder to get past. And that's why I think the Ross Lions, who never let momentum get out of first gear, you never really see them win easy, come away with a stunning victory. If you can harness momentum in your battle plan on the football ground, it makes it easy to score. You can start flowing,
Now, you're a bit of a fan of the round ball game in addition to AFL. We had a question from Gareth, or at least a hot take. Hawks are playing like Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, just all-out heavy metal footy. Can you decipher that for me? What does that mean?
I really can't decipher that because I haven't been watching the Premier League all that much the last few years. But they score beautifully and they score heavily. And, I don't like Liverpool.
Now I'm sensing where the tentativeness in your response comes from. Maybe some of our listeners can speak to that because I'm not plugged into that world. And, maybe Gareth is onto something there.
But certainly, even when he arrived, Sam Mitchell was all about attack, wasn't he? And we questioned it because we were like, he's robbing our defence, which was the best part of the side, to be scoring. And, are we really going to be able to score enough to, level out with the goals that are going to be going into the other end? But as soon as the boys committed to the pressure acts in the centre, and you can see in the game, Collingwood found it so hard to get it past midway. And then even if they did, Sicily was just waiting for an easy contest.
Which is happening more and more, week on week. I think one of our initial questions around this strategy as well was, do we have the fitness base for it? Well, I don't have any such questions about that at the moment.
I think it is quite difficult to maintain it. And that's why you see us have a quarter where we don't score that frequently. We're just in a sort of holding pattern, a bit of a rope-a-dope, see what they've got, see whether they're going to come, and then we hit accelerate again. It's a very exciting form of football, and it's the kind of thing that other clubs hate because their supporters come and say, why can't we play like that?
Again, see, that's the envy.
I don't mind if we lose as long as we play in a style I can enjoy watching.
Yeah, well, Collingwood certainly didn't bring that. You refer to robbing our defence before. Our defence has held up extremely well. It's been extremely miserly, in particular since round 8. We just don't concede, which is fantastic.
A lot of that is due to upfield pressure. That's why we're looking at battle. We're still undermanned against some of the opposition sides who are much bigger than us. We're going to find it difficult. But, if you're as intense as we were on Saturday, you make it easier for our backmen.
Worth keeping in mind that all of this is happening. It's such a departure from anything that Hawthorn planned at the start of the year. I mean, there's no Lewis, obviously, it's well documented, but also Blank would have been up the other end. So to pull out these results and to have adapted in that way has been very special. And I've been asked a lot about where I see this season going and whether we make finals.
I know. I'm like, I don't care. I'm enjoying it. Shut up.
There's a little bit of that, but also I think it's going to turn out a little bit like Rocky 1.
I have no idea where this is going. I've never seen this.
Well, essentially, Rocky doesn't win the title. It comes down to a split decision. The whole point of that final fight in the first film
is so Sly can get another contract for a second film. That's
well, no, like Rocky, the character is this plucky underdog that it's a monumental achievement to even just go the distance. And so, no, he doesn't win the title, but the film does have a happy ending, really. And I imagine that, look, am I saying that we're making finals in that case? Well, I guess you've probably read between the lines and you've concluded that I say no, we don't. But even if we don't, I'm saying that it's the journey there.
I think the reason I say shut up is because the logical part of me is like, nah, I don't abide fairy tales. I don't think it happens.
Well, I do, but that is coming up against the realism of it, and that is we've got some tough tests ahead, and we're going to get to those a little bit later in the show. For now, we should talk about Box Hill.
If you say Carlton after what they did against North,
and now there's no TDK.
Is he done?
Yeah, well, at least for the home and away season, yeah.
Oh God, okay.
So it's going to be Piddo v Meek. That should be interesting. I'd back Meek in, by the way. But anyway, Box Hill Hawks have their own challenges. They came out on top against North Melbourne, obviously, in what was, the same conditions, basically, as what we had at the MCG as the same day earlier on. 8-12-60 defeated North Melbourne 5-16-46. Now, that scoreline should be indicative of just the kind of game that it was. A really tough contest. It was always going to be. It was a tug of war taken to another level thanks to the conditions. 14 points the final margin there. Unfortunately, it came with a bit of a cost. Ed Phillips and Josh Bennett were lost to injury before quarter time.
Well, that's a pretty good victory then to stand out that game with those two ball movers out of the side.
Yeah, absolutely. Phillips sustained a rolled ankle while Bennett's popped his shoulder. So we'll get to our injury list a bit later on, but yeah, it's a good performance to pull a win out of the fire like that with those sorts of injuries.
They're a bit light on forward too. 2 to O'Sullivan, Tucker kicked one, Thorpe kicked one, Stephanakis, or
Dr.
Dre, as he's known, Reeves, Ramsden and Arundel.
Making his return to the Box Hill side.
Yeah, after spending some time in SA. But you can't go past Seamus Mitchell, who had a best on-ground performance in the wet, which should be underlined with 33 touches.
Yeah, dash, dare and poise. That was according to Sean Peter Budge, who did a bit of a write-up on the game. 33 touches at 75.8% disposal efficiency. He was BOG, for sure.
So he is knocking on the door to come back in.
And so is another guy, Harry Morrison, a tried and true performer. Versatility came in handy for Box Hill through Harry Morrison because he was effective basically everywhere he went. At the contest, on the wing, cross half back, he had 25 touches in all, reeled in 10 marks, produced a team high 8 inside 50s and had 3 clearances.
Yeah, and Will McCabe, he sat out the first quarter. What was that about?
They're just managing his minutes still. Strategic, basically.
Only had 12 touches, but 91.5 disposal efficiency, 5 marks. He's just sort of, like the touches he has, he just looks natural. So he needs to get the fitness up. He needs to get some awareness up. That's about it.
Well, worth noting in the write-ups that we sometimes reference for research, he's listed in the best, and he's played 3 quarters. So it's got to be worth something, right?
Jackie O got 2 goals, 18 touches, and how many? 7 scoring change, 6 inside 50s involved in that. So he is out of contract at the end of the year and doing everything he can to stay on the list.
Yes. Yeah, and pending what happens with Bennett's now, he'll certainly have his opportunities to impress, because I think at times they've played similar roles, but it might just be him.
And whereas Henry Hustwaite, the hustler, is contracted to the end of 2026, and CJT0410 asks, where is he at in terms of his future on our list, given our clogged midfield listed players?
Well, I mean, as you say, contractually, I think he's fairly secure, I would have thought. They definitely see something in him. They extended his contract, in Feb or something? It was quite early on in the year, wasn't it?
Yep, it was. So he's obviously doing everything right for the club. He's progressing as they think he should. They're looking at having an engine in their midfield in a couple of years that just sees ball, gets ball, distributes ball. He's very good with the handball. Fantastic football IQ and an ability to spot a free man. So I guess he's just being worked through his paces, but if Connor Nash came out of the lineup, he's straight in, don't you think?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, he is a staple of that Box Hill midfield, and he's consistent these days. Like, he's statistically very consistent these days.
He's played AFL and looked like he can match it at the level. So he's probably a bit frustrated now.
Yeah, well, I dare say if our form continues, he might be waiting a bit longer. it's one of those instances where, much like the next guy, Jai Sarong, 26 touches at 84.6% disposal efficiency, is not doing a whole heap wrong. But it might be a case of crisis creating opportunity, whether that's injury or suspension. Because for now, that back half and certainly our midfield contingent is looking kind of settled.
So the Box Hill Hawks are now 6th on the ladder, and they'll host Williamstown, who are 7th. It's getting a bit dicey now, Nick. We haven't got an easy run home, and we want a home final.
Well, our last round, we're playing Werribee. So, I mean, of all the teams to have as a final hit out before the final series, I guess it'll tell us where we're at. That's the only positive I pluck from there.
Do we play possum? Don't show them any cards?
Treat the game as reconnaissance, basically.
Yeah.
It's tough for Box Hill. I think they're good, but I'm not sure they're good enough this year. I've been more bullish on them in previous seasons, but we'll see.
All right. On to the injury update. They should get Jasper Scaife back this week at the VFL level. Chad Wingard injured his calf and is still 1 to 2 weeks away. Josh Bennett's, we still don't know how bad the shoulder is. And then the 3 season-ending injuries to Lewis, Blank and Butler round off the list. It's a pretty healthy list apart from those.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, we're kind of healthy as a club at the moment, and fingers crossed that continues. What it does is, as long as we've got a healthy list, it creates some selection headaches. I mean, we look at the likes of Hustwaite, Sarong, Morrison, Mitchell. There are guys that are putting up their hand for selection, and I'm just not sure we make any changes for this Adelaide game.
Well, I don't know. We could elevate Sarong and give Sicily the week off. I mean, it's only Adelaide, mate.
Well, that's what D. Taylor reckons. Tough call on this one, he says, but do we give Sicily a break? He was awesome on the weekend, but conditions did play into his hands with the ball being on the ground more often than not. He's been tentative in the air the last 2 weeks. Get dry conditions and a tall forward line, he may struggle.
We don't know the weather yet, do we? For Sunday afternoon at 4:30?
I've not looked into it, but yes, right you are. 4:10pm on Sunday is Adelaide versus Hawthorn.
Oh, 4:10. Oh, a little bit earlier than I expected.
Well, mate, it's the main event, is what it is.
Yeah, and they're half an hour behind. Now, I don't think they'd rest him. Do you?
No, I think they've flagged their intent here, and they're just going to try and persevere and push through to the end of the season.
Willard says, if Cam McKenzie playing this week, who's making way? I love Josh Ward's game on the weekend. He kept running. Is that the equation there, Nick? Or are they just going to leave Ward in the side and see how he can improve this team? Because Cam McKenzie he seemed to hit a bit of a fitness wall, didn't he?
Well, he was managed, and that's why he lost his place in the side. But also, I noticed the last fortnight that he was in the seniors, it was a little bit of a decline in form. Nothing to worry about. It's nothing serious. But, now that Ward has had a little bit of a go at trying to establish his spot, maybe we just stay the course there. I want McKenzie in the side as well, but if that's the equation, if it has to be that straight swap, then I'm probably likely to keep Ward in the side just a little bit.
Oh, mate, you've made a mistake here. You've left this question in from JD Wayne.
Go on.
Are we a better side without Mitch Lewis? Yes. Next question.
I mean, I've got no leg to stand on.
You poor bugger.
The record speaks for itself.
Let's hear the argument. Imagine how much better we could be with both Mitch Lewis.
Well, I mean, maybe, but also maybe not. Who knows? All I can say is that we've done it without him, which hurts my heart a little bit because I'm such a Mitch Lewis fan, but we have come this far without him. So, I don't know. There's nothing else to say about it.
There's still a spot for Mitch in this team. Absolutely.
Of course there is. But, we're not going to see how any of that works until next year. It's a long road back now. And, yeah, who knows? Do
you think he might have to change his game style? Look, last time he was injured like this, he came back a much bigger man. He should be able to do that again. Whether that works with his knees, as they are, is another question. But plenty of blokes have waited till, or even a couple more years before they hit their straps as a key forward. So don't worry too much about Mitch. If he can get that contested style where he can use his body to create space for himself in a contested marking situation, That's the type of forward we need now, because Chol can do what Mitch was trying to do much easier. I think it comes to him more naturally.
Now, reading between the lines of what you said before, you don't seem to think Adelaide's going to cause us much trouble.
I watched him play Collingwood. I went to the G, I watched that game, and they're still without their best player, Rankin.
They're going to be without Dawson, I think, as well.
Look, we're good enough to beat them, and with Hardwick forward over there, which he loves, we should run away with the game. It's going to be tough early. They'll try to really put some scores on the board early, quieten the crowd over there, because they'll be all enthusiastic about Adelaide after they beat the Dons with the last kick. Oh. And Ben Keys, my goodness.
I watched some of that game, Adelaide-Essendon, and, they got on a roll, Adelaide. It was pretty impressive. When they were flying, it was pretty exciting. But, yeah, I wonder if they have that in them again and against, well, a team that is in a much better patch than Essendon. Am I a little bit concerned about Adelaide? Yeah, maybe. I mean, this is a great opportunity. We've only experienced heartache in Adelaide this year. Adelaide Oval, we've had some highlights, certainly, but the end results, both times, have been very depressing. We lose to Collingwood in a tight one. We lose to Port Adelaide at the death. This is an opportunity to turn that around. And in doing so, I mean, if we get over Adelaide, again, our chances of making finals, of qualifying, they increase dramatically. So, every game from here on is extremely important. Something else that's important, our social media stuff. We're going to get to that right now. If you enjoy the work we do here at the Hawk Talk podcast, you can help us out by spreading the word about the show. You can tell your mates about us. You can tell the internet about us by leaving a rating or review on whatever platform you're using to stream this episode. Now, mate, our social media channels, they've been going off. We've hit some huge milestones this week. Don't know if you noticed. Over 7,000 followers on Facebook now. And we've notched up over 2,000 on Instagram as well. Thank you. A big, big thanks to everyone who's on board with us there. If you haven't followed us online, consider this your invitation to do so. As I said, we're on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find us on X, where I am, in particular, very active, always chatting away, as I said, terminally online. And finally, we'd like to sing the praises of our proud, passionate, and paid-up Patreon subscribers who fling us a bit of their hard-earned coin and support the show. Essentially, subscriptions help us put more time and effort into this show and the cool stuff that we make for socials, all in the name of entertaining you. So we thank all of our Patreon subscribers for their support, but we've got a few new people on board right here, right now to give a shout out to.
New subscribers from Saturday, Bao and Nguyen and Hildy. What a good time to get aboard.
Great time to get aboard. I mean, we are flying at the moment. We're really enjoying all the work that we put into the podcast, and it's thanks to you that we're able to do so. If you're not sure about this Patreon stuff, if you want to know what it's all about, basically it's a subscription service where you can sign up and support the show for as little as a few bucks a month. You get access to an entire archive of bonus content, as well as future releases. There are a whole heap of other perks as well, but all the details are on our Patreon page. Head to patreon.com/HawkTalkPod.
Now, into the red time items. Did we give away any goals in red time? I think we did, actually. That was quite annoying.
We gave away a lot of behinds in red time.
That's true. The end of that, was it the third quarter or the second quarter? Second quarter.
Mate, they were kicking behinds all day. We were kicking their behinds. Anyway, we heard from Neil. Do we really need Josh Battle? Wouldn't he and Sarong play exactly the same role? Sarong is looking very good at VFL level and deserves his shot. If we take Battle, we'll be playing against Sarong for the next decade, I reckon.
Well, look, we've got Battle for blank. I think Sarong is there for Sicily, and also you've got McCabe there. They're different players, aren't they? Yeah,
they are, but it starts getting tough for him. I think he might be squeezed out. At what point does he just become a depth player? That's what he'd be weighing up.
Yeah, I'm not sure he has the runs on the board to go somewhere else yet, does he?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It'd be a lot about potential, you'd say. But, if it comes down to, well, do you want Battle or Sarong? I mean, Battle's played 100-plus games, hasn't he? He's like 120 or something like that, so I don't know, it seems like a pretty easy choice.
Yeah, you take the guy that doesn't cost you $900K. That's what you do.
No, I mean, if you look at our trajectory and the role that this guy could fill, I mean, it could be quite a sound strategic maneuver. It could be the kind of play that we need to make this charge and make it a real thing.
We don't need someone learning on the job, that's what you're saying.
Well, preferably not. I mean, a ready-made player who has that track record of delivering, that's kind of what we could use.
Yeah, I don't think Sarong has the strength that Battle will bring. Just the raw physical nature of the man yet. I think that's still to come for Sarong.
Yeah, I agree with that. We had a question from Paul. How many players are required to be delisted at the end of the year, and who might it be? One of the tougher calls the Hawks will have to be looking at with some promising players at Box Hill.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to find players that haven't really progressed this year.
Yeah, the development across the board has been pretty strong, and the idea of showing some players the door is something I wouldn't envy. If I'm calling the shots, I don't really want to.
The only guys that really haven't done it are the guys that have season injuries. And there's also a couple of blokes that have very, very high expectations on them that haven't really hit their straps.
I feel like this is a conversation that we're going to have down the road when it comes close to actually the club making these calls. But
well, I mean, Neil not even mentioning DGB is highly indicative, I would have thought.
I mean, for me, I wonder about Cooper Stevens. I mean, he was almost out the door to begin with. I mean, at the end of last year, he was given a lifeline, but I don't know. I don't know if he's made serious gains this year.
He just can't get the rhythm, and sometimes players can't. It's a very, very difficult sometimes if your body won't work with you.
We heard from Andrew. Have you ever been this keen for a Saints victory?
I mean, yeah, but I'm also probably very keen on a GWS victory just to get above Melbourne because it's been this close. For ages. And it's like...
I've been tweeting, I've been tagging you, I've been messaging you every time it's looked likely, and we just haven't gotten over that yet.
I mean, it looks like St Kilda could beat Essendon, but I feel like GWS at the MCG on a Saturday night when there's just been a dump of 90 centimetres of snow on the snowfields, there'd be hardly anybody there, and they just put paid to Melbourne's season and off we go. Even if, by the time Sunday rolls around, we're looking at if we win by enough, we're in the 8. That could be the process here. If St Kilda beat Essendon and Essendon do not like the pressure of having to win, it'll be quite interesting. Now, just like on Saturday, the punctuation for the end of the match was, of course,
Sky High Jai.
What a magnificent moment.
Well, the reason why I've tacked this on to the end of the rundown is because by popular demand, it's been requested that I have Hutto's commentary at the end of the episode to play us out.
He tried to make a few things happen on the weekend, Hutto, but this, I think he called Watto at one point. Can he get above Jeremy Howe? And nothing happened. And but he got this one right. And magnificent moment on the day.
So it's going to be John Newcomb to take us out on this particular episode of the Hawk Talk podcast. But before we go, I need your tip. I think I know what it is. I think you back us in.
By a few goals. Our midfield should be too strong over there. Yeah,
look, I have no reservations about backing us in. I mean, we have the momentum. We are back on top of our game. We had that blip against Geelong, which sort of put us back in our box for a little bit. But, I mean, what we showed against Freo and then to back it up again against Collingwood in such sensational fashion, why would I not back us in? I think we can get the job done. By how much, I'm not necessarily sure. I do think Adelaide will put up a bit more of a fight than people are expecting. I think it'll be close, but I do back us in to get the job done.
Yeah, I was quite shocked by how well Riley O'Brien played for Adelaide, so the ruck might be an interesting starting point for seeing how well we'll go, but leave McGuinness in the side and send him to Ben Keys, and I think that's the end of it, don't you, Nick?
I reckon you might be onto something there. That's going to be all we have time for the Hawk Talk podcast this week. Of course, we'll be back next week to recap all the action from the weekend, win, lose or draw. To take us out tonight, it is Anthony Hudson giving his very best. We are a happy team at Hawthorn.
Nicely to McGuinness. Newcomb demanding it in the goal square. Does he think he's Jason Dunstall or something? He is! He might have just flown higher than you, Chase.
Probably. We saw him in a one-on-one contest with Darcy Moore in third term, where he used his body really well. Didn't take the mark, but almost did. Now he's showing he can take the overhead mark. So maybe we've got a midfielder here who can then spell forward instead of having to spell on the bench.
Well, there's another bloke that used to wear number 3 and was a midfielder who went forward with some degree of success.
And this guy's pretty lethal too. Jai Newcomb. Get ready for another Hawthorn eruption at the MCG. It was time to